Every year, I play a lot of video games. When I first started doing these favorites of the year list, well, the very first one was actually for 2 years, and not only that, it encompassed a lot of stuff. There were books on that list. There were movies on that list. And then the following year, the books and movies kind of just got smushed together in with the TV show list. And then last year, there was just a TV show list, as well as also a video game list. And yeah, that's just what happened again in 2024. I effectively did no reading, and I barely watched any movies. But I somehow found the time to watch more TV shows than I did in 2023. So if you've never seen one of my videos before, and considering the low subscriber count, that's probably very many people, you may need to be told that I don't just do the stuff that came out in the year when I do my favorites of the year list. Consider it more like what Donkey or Sniper Wolf do. Nah, Sniper Wolf. Consider it more what Donkey or Super Eye Patch Wolf do. That said, most of the stuff on this list did come from 2024. So that's pleasant. Let's do some general rules other than that and talk about some shows I just didn't finish for one reason or another. Especially because they weren't really bad, I just stopped watching them. The one I liked the most that I didn't finish was I finally got around to watching Spy Family, as I upgraded my Disney Plus subscription to include Hulu. And I don't know about you, but the way Hulu does anime, at least when watching through Disney Plus, the commercials are just non-stop. And I don't complain about ads. I really don't. Whenever I hear people talk about ads and complain about them, I usually roll my eyes. It's like I grew up in the cable generation. I don't usually care. And this time I cared. It was, you'd get ads at the start, then the theme would play, and then you'd get ads again. And I swear it felt like every 2 or 3 minutes I was getting ads. So I just decided, nah, I'll wait until the show comes to a different service, or I'll read the manga, because I already have the first volume of the manga, and I need to read more anyway. Then we got 2 shows that I basically abandoned for the exact same reason. I watched a little bit of the reboot of Ranma 1/2, and there's just something about modern anime where I used to like anime more because, well, I don't know why I used to like anime more, because I was going to say, oh, I like the cozy slice of life stuff that had like a little interesting tweak to it. And I really like the super over-the-top stuff. And both those things still exist, but I tolerate them a lot less. I don't know if it's because anime has gotten a bit different, or if I just don't like it as much. But I also remember never loving anime that much either, which I'm bringing up for several reasons. But the big one is that I made it through like 3 episodes of Ranma 1/2 and was like, you know what? I don't think this show is for me. I think this is for people who love the original, which I've never seen, and want a bit of an update. Or people who didn't like the original because it just wasn't their thing and they liked some minor tweaks. Effectively, it's a martial arts comedy that doesn't go nearly crazy enough for me. And that's the funny thing with over-the-top anime. Some anime is bog standard over-the-top, and that bores me. And Ranma 1/2 got really boring really quickly. And I suppose this would spoil next year's list, but I would probably just forget to talk about it. I'm having the exact same problem with Sakamoto Days. I just started watching it like a week ago, and, well, not a week ago, a little more than a week ago, and I like the premise so much. And then the show just becomes formulaic so quickly. I think I'm on episode 5, and I saw it was like, new episode, remember to watch this new episode, it's episode 5, and I just kind of went, I don't think I will, man. I think I already stopped caring.
Quick update. I did watch that 5th episode and found myself so bored with how much this show just changes its mind about what the plot and tone and rules are that I'm officially done. I don't even think I'd like the manga if it's this slapdash in execution. I won't remember this for next year, and it's just not a show I like.
So with that, on to the actual list. In the tail end of 2024, when I realized, oh, I'm going to have to make a best of TV shows list, I really struggled for what would be at the bottom. Because, straight up, I didn't watch a single bad show this year, you know? Like, even the shows I abandoned weren't bad. I just didn't love them. But then, I ended up buying a specific Blu-ray release that contained a couple TV episodes. And while they also were not bad, they were so nothing that they ended up at the bottom of the list immediately. As much as I do like the Wallace and Gromit short films, and even the feature-length films, although the newest one is way better than Were-Rabbit, I really watched Cracking Contraptions wondering, why does this exist? I don't think this makes the franchise stronger or weaker, to be honest, because, again, they weren't bad, but I was watching 2-minute shorts that claimed they were television episodes. If you watch the whole entire thing like I did in one sitting, it takes 20 minutes. 20 minutes to watch an entire TV series. And it's sort of what you expect. It's, oh, Wallace has this new contraption. Does it work? Depends on if it should for the episode. I struggle to remember much of anything about it, because I want to give some examples, but every example I'm thinking of, I'm going, wait, was that from Cracking Contraptions, or was that from one of the shorts? I don't get why this exists. I don't think Aardman had to worry about maintaining the rights to Wallace and Gromit. I guess they just needed to do something with them. They just needed to do something. They wanted to create something. And at the end of the day, Cracking Contraptions is not bad. But I see no reason to ever watch it again. And I see no reason to even recommend it to people who love Wallace and Gromit. Glad we finally have a Blu-ray release that contains it, so it actually is a complete set, sans the movies. But if that's the most positive thing I've got, then yeah, bottom of the list. Many years ago, Amazon and Viacom teamed up so that way less popular Nickelodeon shows could get DVD releases. These were DVRs. Nintendo referred to these as basically legal bootlegs in his video on Cartoons on DVD.
Tons of Nicktoons have only gotten home releases through burn-on-demand DVD recordable media. These are basically official bootlegs.
And I stand by what he said, because they ended the program years ago, and they gave warning, so I was like, oh, I better make sure to pick up back at the Barnyard, because it's a guilty pleasure show. I watched it a lot in high school. It's a guilty pleasure show. And a show I was surprised got the DVD at all.
Once there was a little girl, a girl who could make fiends. She kept the whole town terrified, the girl who could make fiends.
I watched all of Making Fiends finally last year, just in one sitting, and it's a fun show. It is pretty good. And I struggle to remember what I liked about it so much. I remember Vendetta, I remember Charlotte, I remember, oh god, what's his name? Grudge? The hamster. Vendetta just calls him Hamster, but his name is apparently Grudge or something, because Charlotte calls him that a couple times. And, and I remember the episode with the talking hair, the wig. That's a pretty good episode. But I don't remember much else. It is a good show, but it was when I was watching and enjoying it, it was still destined to be never one of my favorite Nickelodeon shows anyway. But I could definitely see the hype behind it. It's fun. It is a shame it lasted as long as it did, which was barely long at all. Although then again, if I'm struggling to remember it, I think it's a show that maybe would have gotten better if it had actually had the chance to gestate. But at the same time, maybe it was a one-joke premise that couldn't get too far anyway. For all it said, I like it. I can imagine going back and watching it again, just because I swear I liked it more while watching it than I do now in the aftermath. But yeah, That's ultimately why it got the second to last place. Like I said, a lot of these bottom placements, I quite liked them for what they were, and it was really hard to pick. Making Fiends just kind of lost out because I'm struggling to remember what I enjoyed so much. Do I recommend it? If you can find it. I don't know if it's on Paramount Plus, but if it is, check it out, because the legal bootlegs don't exist anymore. Sorry. The Game Awards is not a television show, but it is effectively a TV event, despite being on the internet. I couldn't not put it here. I watch the Game Awards every year, and while I usually walk away from them either feeling fine, or in the case of the 2023 one, I walk away very disappointed. And I can prove this. I wrote articles on DualShockers about how really upset I was with the 2023 Game Awards. And I don't think anyone from the Game Awards committee read my article. I'm effectively a nobody at the end of the day in terms of games journalism. But the 2024 Game Awards sure felt like someone read that article, because practically everything I complained about was fixed.
How long's this bozo gonna go on?
Well, that's what I've been asking for the last 10 years.
Oh!
Hey guys, yeah, up here,
Yeah?
host. Yeah, we're you know, we could hear you.
Oh, good. Can you hear this? Boo!
Yeah, please wrap it up.
The Muppet stuff was actually much more enjoyable. Not that I even complained last time, but this is still the best that they used the Muppets. The awards themselves, while there was still a case of we're reading these ones off, a lot of the ones that were just read off made a lot more sense. They were smaller. They not only were they smaller, but a lot of them were more connected in terms of award types. And also, I couldn't help but notice that most of the awards that Balatro won were the ones read off, and that one is a weird case of I understand that now because Balatro doesn't deserve it. Balatro did deserve all that stuff, even as someone who hasn't played it. I saw how it caught the world on fire. But the first award Balatro won, some random person went up and said, hey, the dev wasn't here, so we're accepting it. And if the guy's not going to be there to accept it, you might as well just read him off. You might as well just read him off and say, congrats, Balatro. They actually acknowledged the huge layoffs in the games industry that are happening for no good reason. Was there still a bit of corporatism in there? Sure, a little tiny bit. But acknowledging the guy who is actually trying to get people their jobs back, that's way more than I expected from the very corporate Game Awards. And the fact that they effectively apologized for cutting people's speeches off in 2023, appreciated. That was awful that they did that. And yeah, hearing the speech just before Astrobot won about here's the success to making Game of the Year, it's beautiful. It's still not a perfect show. I could have lived without the Snoop Dogg music video. I don't even dislike the guy's stuff. I just failed to see why it was relevant to the Game Awards. Although that said, he was the only other celebrity, and considering the other celebrity was Harrison Ford looking like he didn't want to be there. Okay. This was a huge step up, and I think it's going to be a Game Awards that people will look back fondly on, and will start comparing other Game Awards to, even the other really great ones. And for all that, I couldn't not put it on this list, even if watching it on YouTube is certainly not watching it on TV, but what are you going to do? Oh, and it's still way better than the Oscars. I don't even watch the Oscars. I watch the Game Awards every year, even when they're not good, and I never watch the Oscars. You want to know what TV show that came out in 2024 that was really fucking weird to place my feelings on? So Secret Level is this anthology show exclusive to Amazon Prime Video, and every episode is based off of a video game. Some are like huge names. You got Mega Man, you got Pac-Man, you got The Outer Worlds. Everyone knows that one. But then you got stuff that, like, I don't know who's heard of it. Like, I'm not saying they haven't. I'm not saying no one has, but I mean, some of them are from Amazon Gaming Studios, you know? It's like, oh, let's advertise ourselves in this show that's effectively an advertisement. And then there's an episode on Concord. And I think Sony made a mistake not greenlighting that episode. They made a mistake not having that episode canned. Because I'm going to be honest, if Sony ever decided, hey, we should probably just write Concord off on our taxes because of how bad it failed, any judge could go, then why did you make an episode on TV for that secret level show? That feels like... Oh my god, that feels like such a mistake. And also, that episode's bad. That's a very boring episode. And there's a lot of boring episodes, actually. This is one episode that, again, I believe this one is based off of an Amazon game, where it's just, guy's daughter runs away in space, and he has to keep tracking her, and the show just keeps saying how the difference in light years that this planet is from the last one, and by that point I stopped caring about the plot. I'm like, I get it. You want me to experience this vast open world in the game I'm never going to fucking play. But then there are episodes like the Arnold Schwarzenegger episode where he's a bad king who keeps getting resurrected. I may forget the name of the game. I think it's Another World, but it's a great episode. The Pac-Man episode is stellar. It reimagines the classic game into something dark and gritty and fully fascinating. There's even going to be a game based off that episode. And I'm kind of hyped, but I think I would rather just watch the episode again. Oh my god, the Unreal Tournament episode is great! And you know what? The Outer Worlds episode. I like the Outer Worlds just fine, but its corporate satire never really landed well for me. It often felt like a case of, hey, this thing exists in real life, and we're telling you exists in real life. That's the commentary. But then the secret level episode, oh my god, just watch that one if you can. Most people have Amazon Prime, so you can watch this one. Just watch that one and then dare tell me that the Outer Worlds game did the satire much better. Like, as an Outer Worlds fan, I was surprised at how good that episode was. Yeah, it's ultimately a mixed bag. I suppose in some ways, I mean, the Game Awards consistently I liked more than Secret Level, because, you know, that was like this. But the peaks of Secret Level were just genuinely great television. As a whole, it's brought down by the really bad and really boring episodes, but the great episodes are so great, I got no problem putting it above the Game Awards that I just all around liked. Check it out. They've already greenlit the second season. And I hope that they learn the lessons from the great episodes, and not so much the nothing really happened in this episode, why did this even happen? I am pretty sure that in the history of this channel, and I'm not talking like when I rebranded it, I'm talking about over a decade ago when I first started just uploading my own plays and stuff like that. All those old videos are available on Vimeo, by the way, if you're curious. But in the history of that, I am positive I have never mentioned sports. So if you assumed I wasn't a sports fan, you're correct. With one massive exception, I actually really like the Olympics. I always tune in at least a little bit for the Olympics, you know, every 2 years. Because I'm aware there's a summer and there's a winter. Last year was summer. Winter will be coming very soon, and I'm pumped. I love the Olympics. But thanks to Peacock, I was able to see way more than I usually did. Usually I would just read news articles or see highlights or whatever, because, you know, that's just how you watch the Olympics. But Peacock streamed all of it. So I got to watch the surfing and the tennis, and like I got to see practice rounds before the real stuff actually happened. So many separate cameras. It was a fun time actually finally watching a lot of the Olympics. But if I had to pick a standout moment to actually make the list, I watched the entire Olympics opener. And that was really, really good. The reason I like the Olympics so much is not just because I do actually like watching the sports. Again, I'm not a sports fan, but these are masters in their element. It's hard to not enjoy watching that. But I also like the camaraderie of the world. We're all agreeing to get together for A short amount of time in the grand scheme of things, but all getting together and coming together. And I don't know, I'm a sucker for that. And I think the opener was kind of stellar. And I know I wasn't the only one. I remember some of the skits and the music and whatever trending on like all the social platforms for quite a while afterwards. And it was funny just me looking those again. It's like, yeah, it really was that exciting when it was live. It's fun. I just really like the Olympics. I can't praise the Olympics though without pointing out the really bad stuff, because I also found out how out of touch the Olympics committee are. Because apparently now you can commit assault, and the judges don't care that much, and your home country still celebrates you. And if you're wondering why I'm being vague about it, I know those details. I honestly forget what country it was. So shame on me. I should be more aware of this stuff. Then there's also, I wondered, hey, is there an Olympics video game this year? I'd kind of like to play it now that I can watch a bunch of the Olympics easily. And I found out that they have canceled their agreement with Sega so they can focus on NFT games. The first example I brought is honestly probably more morally reprehensible. Not even probably, more morally reprehensible, but dear God, that second one is still horribly out of touch and morally reprehensible. And, like, it's a shame that the Olympics Committee is this out of touch, because when you see stuff like the opening ceremony, you wouldn't get that feeling. Like, it feels modern and fresh, and the camaraderie is still there. So then when you hear how else they messed up, you just kind of go, how? I know you can do it right. Why do you also do it wrong? But as a show, as a sports game, the Olympics was really, really good. I obviously can't play too much higher because it was the Olympics. They're not a TV show, but I can't not put it, I can't put it any lower than this. I had too much fun watching it. Even though I also got some eye-opening information about the Olympics and the committee. What are you going to do? State of the world, am I right? Do you remember when Pokemon released the first season on Blu-ray? I don't know why I'm doing this. I could just go get it, but I'm not gonna. That was just the first 52 episodes, which is called the Indigo League. And I didn't really know that that's what they considered season 1 when I first bought it. I remember getting near the end and like, man, we still feel pretty far from when Ash goes to Cinnabar Island and faces Blaine, and it turns out, yeah, there's a reason. Those episodes weren't in there. Last year, I found the big DVD pack that has Indigo League and Indigo Plateau, and I was like, you know what? I was waiting to see if they would do a Blu-ray for Plateau, and clearly they're not gonna, so let's just get these DVDs.
As you can see, I already have 10 badges. Still think you have what it takes to become a Pokemon man?
If you're asking my opinion on Pokemon Indigo League, my honest opinion is, it is not as good as I remember. Because there were so many episodes I was like, I don't like this actually. Some episodes were still great, like specifically the episode with Lieutenant Surge. That is one that stands out to me as, no, this is what Pokemon should be. This is really, really good. Then we get to Indigo Plateau, and I'm sitting there watching it going, wow, this is a step up from Indigo League. Pokemon Indigo Plateau is way more consistently enjoyable than the season before it. The filler is a lot funnier and feels more fitting, even though, again, it's filler. Unless Ash catches a Pokemon, nothing really important happens. But again, these are the filler episodes like the ancient Pokemon that turned out, the ancient Alakazam and Gengar who got really big and were hidden inside like little ancient toys. And the Clefairy episode, which is just mind-bogglingly funny. But then also, the fights are just better too. Like the Ash's fight with Blaine is really good. Ash's fight with Team Rocket for the Earth Badge, just the Earth Badge. That's a really good episode still. And his fights in the actual Indigo League, or the Indigo Plateau, I guess. Yeah, it is the Indigo Plateau. They're really good. The pacing is much better. There's some actual character development now. They waited until the end to give some character development. I don't remember if Pokemon the show stayed as consistent as it was during Plateau, but it certainly was a vast improvement over League. I definitely think when I'm going to go rewatch older Pokemon episodes, I'm way more going to go for Plateau than I am for Pokemon League. Which is a shame, because the League episodes are the one in Blu-ray quality, but state of the world, am I right? So putting this show as high as I've put it, I'm a little bit lying to myself, and I'm a little not. "2024 was the year I caved in and went, you know what? The anime fans keep talking about this one as if it was the all-time peak. Let's see if Yu Hakusho lives up to that." The first season of Yu Hakusho, where it is a formulaic Monster of the Week type show, I actually really liked. There's something about Yusuke who I like as a protagonist a lot, and I like the world building, I like the premise, but then most fans are like, yeah, that's all good and everything, but it's the Dark Tournament arc. That is where Yu Hakusho becomes the most peak show you've ever seen. I really like tournament arcs, but I'll be frank, the Dark Tournament didn't do that much for me. I kind of felt it was a step down. I enjoyed the previous season way more. And again, I usually like tournament arcs. There were some cool, interesting characters, but it was just so much. We're waiting until we can finally take on the big evil villain and reveal the big evil villain's plan, which was kind of disappointing if I'm being honest. There's some really interesting stuff done in that arc. Like, I see why it's so beloved. I didn't care for it that much. And then the third arc, I don't think I had to make many excuses. Like, most people seem to think that one's a bit disappointing either. Also, and oh my god, twice in a row where the very evil villain is revealed, actually their plan wasn't that evil all along. Don't do that twice in a row, that's dumb. It didn't even work the first time. But then Season 4. I don't know why no one talks about Season 4. I loved Season 4. Like, the second it started, I was like, oh, okay. Like, I can get people being disappointed that it's like, actually, retcon, Yusuke is actually the great-great-grandson of a demon. That's how we got all those powers. Whatever, I'm used to Dragon Ball Z, man. Like, I grew up on Dragon Ball Z. I'm used to, actually, this thing was different than what you were told. Goku has a brother, actually. It's really, really good what they did with it. All the Demon World stuff. I was just watching it every episode going, this is what I wanted the Dark Tournament to be like emotionally. Not necessarily writing-wise, but I wanted to feel that way about the show since the first season ended. And yeah, I suppose the episodes I don't love as much maybe are around par or below of what I felt for Pokemon Indigo Plateau. But those great episodes are just stellar. I'm very happy I finally watched Yu Hakusho because while seasons 2 and 3, especially 3, were fine, seasons 1 and 4 were, ooh, I really like this, and oh, where has this been all my life? So, you win, anime fans. Yu Hakusho's a masterpiece. I don't exactly agree when it's a masterpiece the same way you guys do. Did you think we were done with Pokemon?
When you lead with your heart, it's so scary.
So they retired Ash and Pikachu, which for me, I felt like that was a long time coming. I love Ash and Pikachu, but they got stagnant a long time ago. This was needed. And so I did with Horizons what I did with all the newer Pokemon seasons. I go, well, after the original time I rewatched Pokemon Indigo League, I was like, maybe I was biased and should have rewatched this before. So you know what? I'm going to apologize to the newer seasons that I kept thinking weren't as good by actually bothering to watch a couple episodes. And every time I would watch a couple, go, I understand what the show's going for. It's not bad at all. And then I would never watch another episode. So I figured that's how Horizons would go. Yeah, I binged Horizons constantly and kept getting pumped up for new episodes. I love Horizons. It's just a very strong, if standard, adventure TV show. The character development is great, the action is phenomenal, and I really like the characters. Liko is just a lot of fun. I like what they did with Dot. Even Roy, who can sometimes be a bit annoying, I like what he brings to the table. I like how fleshed out all the Pokemon are. I like how even just Pokemon that just live on the ship and not even owned by anybody. I like what they do with those ones. I am really intrigued by the villains, because I don't entirely know what they're getting up to, and that's a good thing. And it's not, because I don't mean in the case of, oh, what are they even doing here? Because that can certainly happen. I mean, every time I learn a little bit more, I just get more intrigued, like, what is this master plan? I feel like I'm gonna know, and it's gonna pay off. Pokemon Horizons is great. If you're not watching Horizons, please do. Starting with this show, this is the one where I am pumped for new seasons. Like, numbers 4, 3, and 2 are the ones where I am ready for the new seasons to come out. And, truth be told, for Horizons, that's already started, and I have already watched a little bit. You'll hear what I think next year is all I'm saying. But, if you watched the one from last year, which no one did, like a handful of people did, none of those shows I felt that strongly about. I straight up explicitly said, I like the show just fine, but I'll be surprised if I follow for the next season. And I straight up didn't. Well, but these shows, I'm so excited about the next season. They've ended at exactly the right spot where I want to know the next bit of story. And it's even true for Pokemon Horizons. What a shock. This is the best Pokemon has been in TV form in a long time. I so highly recommend it. Weird story here. Do any of you still use Facebook? Because if you do, you'll know that it doesn't really tell you what your friends are saying anymore. It just throws ads at you from pages that aren't supposed to be ads. They're just like fan pages. In my case, it is a lot of anime fan pages. And I don't know why. Like I told you, I'm not that big of an anime fan. It just thinks I am. Like, Facebook's algorithm is weird. But I did see a lot for Dandadan on there, and I was like, fine, I'll finally watch this, I guess. I mean, it wasn't the real reason why, because it's recommended a lot of other shows to me that I did not care about. But then when I actually saw a promo for a Dandadan on TV, I was like, oh, I've seen this on those weird Facebook fan pages that I'm not even following. And actually read the description, like, this sounds actually pretty good. And oh my god, those Facebook fan pages were onto something. Dan is a breath of fresh air for over-the-top anime. This is what I was talking about. I don't need bog standard over-the-top anime where, whoa, that's a thing that happened. I need, oh my god, there's aliens, and oh my god, they stole my genitals, and oh my god, an evil witch living in a tunnel, and oh my god, how Dan mixes mythology, like urban mythology and hardcore science fiction seamlessly is so interesting as a world concept. And to top it off, you got Momo, and you got Okaroon, and you've got Turbo Granny, who are all fantastic characters. I keep wanting to watch more of their antics. Again, even Turbo Granny, not to say she's the worst or anything, it's just, she's barely in it. Like, even her is like, yeah, give us more. Oh my god. It's, you know what this one is. Everyone's talking about Dan. You probably assumed it was on my list, even if you didn't look at the thumbnail. It's good. Dan's really good. I don't think I've seen a show like this for quite a while, in terms of concept at least, and in terms of character and the character and their chemistry together. This is what I want from these kind of shows. Like, absolutely. So yeah, Dan, great. Absolutely. Wonderful. When is the next season coming out? This next show, I only saw the weird Facebook fan pages after I had already started watching it. So I was ahead of the curve this time. Yeah. How is Delicious in Dungeon this good? Like, it's... Once again, I read the description, went, oh, I get it. It's like if a video game dungeon was like a real in this fantasy world, like with the video game dungeon rules of monster hierarchy and all that, and they had to start resorting to eating them. That's kind of really cool as a concept. And then they take that so seriously, like you learn culinary dishes and nutrition value and all this stuff, and it's like, wow, this is really engaging. I'm going to keep watching for a little bit. And then it doesn't take very long before the show goes, oh, by the way, these are fully fleshed out characters. We should start slowly introducing all these facets of their character. And you go, ooh, so it is just also a very good fantasy show on top of this interesting concept. Okay. And then it keeps going, and then it keeps going. And you start learning some stuff about the lore and the story, and you go, ooh, okay, this is the good kind of fantasy where the lore really kind of means something and is going to come into play instead of just being there to be a fantasy story. And then it keeps going, and it keeps going, and then there is a midway twist. And that midway twist, man, Studio Trigger animated this adaptation, but they did not write the manga it's based off of. But you gotta assume that Trigger read the manga, went, whoa, this is the kind of twist that we usually do. We have to animate this show. Speaking of, oh my god, Studio Trigger has not lost any of their wonderful storyboarding talent. This animates so good. Like, Dan is animated very well too. Like the poses and all that stuff in Dan, but nothing looks nearly as good as Delicious in Dungeon. When that animation bump happens, you're like, oh god, I thought Kill la Kill looked good, I think this looks better somehow. Yeah, this was like one of the first shows I was binge watching. And here's the thing, I was actually binge watching it because when I finally got around to it, again, I got onto it before not before everybody, but before like it super blew up. So there were like a handful of episodes, and I just started binging it and getting that. And at one point I was cut off and went, nope, sorry, the next episode is in a couple of days. And I went, oh my god, I can't wait. I hadn't done that in so long. I usually just wait until episodes stockpile up and then binge them. I couldn't. Delicious in Dungeon was so good, I impatiently sat there going, come on, when is it Delicious in Dungeon Day? And I never forgot which day it was. It was, okay, it's almost Delicious in Dungeon Day. Finally, it's Delicious in Dungeon Day. And it would be like one of the first things I did when I got up. Oh, man. I am not that big of an anime fan, and yet anime is about half of this list. And it's almost all... No, it's entirely the top half. Well, up until you get to the number one. But man, anime really proved itself this year. I've not been the biggest fan of like modern anime, as I've said. Like, the gimmicky, super long titles, I thought those were kind of cringe, if I'm being honest. It stopped being funny after the fifth show that did it. Like, Over the Top is not over the top enough. But then finally, Dan and Delicious in Dungeon and Pokemon Horizons in some capacity really just reminded me, no, this is why anime is good. Man, 2024 I'm going to remember for a long time as a year anime came back. And I hope 2025 does the same. And considering all the shows I loved are getting a second season, that's already a pretty good mark. You know what's funny? Not only is the number one not only is the number one show on this list not from 2024, but in terms of being number one, it was literally the first show I started watching in 2024. I just opened Peacock one day and went, oh yeah, I haven't caught up with that show. Because years before, I had watched just the first season, because someone recommended it to me, and I enjoyed it, but I barely remembered it, and I went, I'll watch season 2 and beyond some other day. 2024 was that some other day.
In between the lines, there's a lot of obscurity. I'm not inclined to resign to maturity. I know, you know, that I'm not telling the truth. I know, you know.
From what I remember about Psych season 1 is I remember the basic premise. I remembered roughly the faces of everybody. I couldn't remember their names really because it had been so long. I remembered Lassiter was a Civil War buff. It was just a weird fact from one episode. And I remembered that the pilot was not indicative to what the rest of the show was like. Season 2, though, was like, ooh, okay, I can already tell this is an improvement from Season 1. This is not bad. Let's keep going with this. And Season 2 is from the bygone era of episodic TV. Previous plots didn't really matter all that much during very early Psych, you know, because that didn't in TV. It was just, here's the next episode of Sean and Gus. Oh, look at the wacky hijinks they're getting up to. It was still really, really good, and the murder mysteries were always fascinating. This is a show where I would try as hard as I could. I would still never guess the culprits. And I'd often feel like stupid in a good way, as in, oh man, you gave me all the clues and I still couldn't figure it out. Which is good murder mystery writing. Then around season 3, that's when you can tell, that's when TV started changing to more serialized. Because now suddenly, references to older episodes happened more often. Sometimes it's just a callback joke, but other times it's, oh hey, did you realize that was a plot thread? Guess what, now it's a plot thread. The character writing just got more better too, and as the show kept going on, it's, ooh, you took this good show and made it a great show. And then you took this great show and made it a phenomenal show of all time. I wouldn't necessarily say Psych became one of my favorite shows of TV, but dear God, it became a show I'm gonna constantly rewatch from now on. I love practically everything about it. Like most people, the last season is kind of stinky. Although I don't think the last season is as bad as the season before it. And before you say, really? The season before it has some really good episodes, actually. Some fantastic ones. In fact, back to back, it has my favorite episodes. D's Nups and Turn Right or Left to Die? What is it exactly? I actually wrote it down. Yeah, Turn Right or Left for Dead. Those are my favorite episodes, especially Turn Left or Right. And they're in my least favorite season because the bad episodes of that season are easily the worst episodes of the show. I know, it's like, some people really think that one episode from the last season, which was so bad I can't remember the name of it, that's the worst one of all time. When I saw it, I was like, ooh, I understand. I somehow didn't hate it as much as the worst episodes from the previous season. And yes, I also did watch all the movies. They're fun. They're fun. The second one's the best of the movies. That one just feels like a classic episode of Psych, and it's like when it's a movie that's based off of a TV show that's still on TV, all I really need is episode but longer. Or in this case, maybe not even that much longer. This was like an hour-long program. It's so good. It's funny, and even the jokes that are funny, Psych can get away with some jokes that other shows couldn't. Like, constant pop culture references are usually pretty annoying, but the way Psych earnestly does it, that it's like, no, this is more character than it is referencing thing you know, so it's cute, it's funny. The love interest in the show, the romance writing in the show, shockingly good for the type of show it is. I'm just going to straight up say it. If you love murder mystery shows like, say, Diagnosis Murder, Murder, She Wrote, and you haven't seen Psych, you have somehow not watched maybe the best murder mystery TV show of all time. I'm just going to say it. And if you haven't seen Psych, and just in general, and even if you aren't a big murder mystery fan, you'll probably still really love it. It took a show as beloved and amazing as Psych to beat out the best of 2024. which really says a lot about Psych itself as it is, and its status as an all-time great. But it also says a lot about just how good TV was in 2024. 2024 was a pretty mixed bag for things like video games, which I will get to. But for TV, there were a lot of really good and solid offerings, even from stuff that I would not have expected. At the end of the day, yeah, if there's a positive you can take from 2024, and I totally get if you're having a hard time finding a positive about 2024. TV was excellent. It's a minor victory, but I'll take it. Stay tuned for the video games list, which might come out this month. Maybe it won't. I tend to find those videos tend to do better when they're in March, but these ones don't tend to do all that well no matter when I put them, so didn't have a problem putting this one in February.